This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I'm your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Atiba de Souza, who is an author, entrepreneur, and relationship mentor who helps leaders break free from burnout and build teams that take ownership. He wrote the Delegation Trap, It's Not Them, It's You, a story-driven guide teaching leaders how to let go of every task and get results that shine. With 25 plus years running gyms, bakeries, and food service companies and coaching national championship youth football teams, he knows firsthand what it takes to turn average performance into excellence. His mission is simple: transform overwhelmed bosses into confident leaders of teams that thrive even when they're not in the room. So, Atiba, welcome to the program. It's great to have you on today.
Steve, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it, buddy.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. Why don't you give us a little context to get started here? Just kind of where you grew up, how you got into this teaching leaders how to be better leaders and that type of
Yeah.
thing, and where you're based. But just give us a little context.
Yeah. So I've been in business for 30 years. Um, yeah, this is my 30th year. Started in 1996.
It's surprising
And
to say that, right? It's just kind of like, wow, 30 years. That's impressive.
yeah. And it feels like, is that even real and is that even right? But yeah, I've been in business for 30 years. I've been a serial entrepreneur over that time. I have had one company that's kind of morphed through space and time and stuck with me that time while I own many others. I spent almost 40 years in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Um, and and so a big part of that 30 years was in Washington, D.C., obviously. And it's been this thing, if you will, that I've been through a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Let's call a
Yeah.
spade, right? And I've learned a
Yeah.
lot of lessons and I've had a lot of success and I've had a lot of trials. And I've come to realize that what I've gone through, I went through so that I can help someone else.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great way
Right.
to look at it. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you're still based in the Washington D.C. area.
No, I'm in Manila,
Okay. And where's that?
Philippines.
Philippines? Oh, Manila. Oh, okay. I was okay, great. So why make the move to Manila?
We've been planning to leave the country for 2 decades.
Okay.
And we started planning, seriously planning and putting to paper the plan and executing about 8 years ago. And then we pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
We said that it would have been October 2025 that we were going to leave, and October 2025 we left.
Well, that's awesome. That's great.
And so,
So, yeah. Okay.
long
And
time coming.
yeah, for it sounds like it. And for those that are watching this on video, I'm holding up the book right now. So this is your book. You're an author. It's called, as we said in the bio, the Delegation Trap. It's not them,
Yes.
it's you.
Hmm.
Very well done. I loved it
Oh,
because
thank you.
it was it wasn't dense and complicated and whatever. It's just good practical things that make a lot of sense and shows that you have a lot of experience in this area. So talk about delegation and all that, and we'll get into that as we go here. But as you say in the book, we just need to delegate better, right? It seems simple, but it's not easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is the key, and it's the key to the future of all of our companies,
Yeah.
and so it's time that we learn.
Yeah, yeah. And I love it too, where you said we need to build a culture where people think and
Hmm.
act like owners. That's been one of my mantras as well. Even if you don't have actual ownership, ownership mentality just changes everything. So, you just give some ideas on, how to build cultures that where there's that ownership mentality.
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the things when we talk about culture, and culture is one of those cliched words. Oh,
Yeah.
we have great culture. Oh, culture. Oh, and the reality behind culture is this. One, as the owner, especially in small business, culture exudes out of your character and who you are. You cannot have a culture that is antithetical to who you are. Because in order for the culture of your company to exist and truly live, which is what it needs to do, you have to live it every single day.
Mm.
Every day, right?
Oh, that
And
totally makes sense. Yeah.
I see that all the time with business owners. It's like, oh, we want to have this great culture, but it's not really who they are, or it's aspirational. And then it falls apart because, well, you can't sustain it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that also means your culture is going to have flaws, which most people don't want to look at.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
there's never a perfect culture, or to aspire to be such is probably just spinning your wheels. Obviously, you can't be who you aren't. So as the leader, the owner, whatever position you're in, you just need to go forward and as you say, try and be who you are and not make it phony.
Absolutely. And so it has to be based on your principles. And what are your principles? What are the things that you stand on? And that is where the values of your culture come from. And I'm not talking about some fancy values that you stick up on the wall and you put it in some plaque and nobody looks at, or when people look at it, they laugh at because like, huh, ain't nobody here living by those type of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be values that you exude on a daily basis. Like one of ours is relationships over everything. And so yeah, if relationships are over everything, everything else, that also means if you're in a situation and your mom is sick and you got to go take care of your mom, and guess what? I don't want to hear from you. I
Yeah.
don't care what deadline we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Go take care of mom.
And writing this book, was it something that you always wanted to do? Was it a
Never wanted to do it.
chore? Was it digging a ditch, or did you enjoy it? I'm always interested in authors of how they start and finish, because it's not an easy undertaking, I wouldn't think.
Steve, I never wanted to be an author. Matter of fact, I said I would never be an author. Matter of fact, I know so many publishers who have come to me over the years and said, "Oh my gosh, Atiba, you have a story to tell. I would love to help you tell your story. You got to write a book." And I looked at them all and I said, "You're insane. I will never write a book."
Okay. So what happened?
Um, what happened was I was in a mastermind, and I was in a mastermind of people that I look up to.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in that room and you're the small fish
Mm.
in the room, yeah, that's me in this room.
Okay.
And in this mastermind, we meet 3 times a year. We go around and we say, so in the last 4 months, what have you done that other people can learn from? Like something that they can take away and that they can actually do. And I've been in business long enough. And if you've been in business any amount of time, there are good times and there are bad times. Business is never a flat line or straight up into the right. That's not reality. We have ebbs and flows. And I was in a serious downturn at this time. Things weren't good, like we weren't doing well. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Okay. And we knew it was going to get better, but it's still, we were in a bad place. And I'm thinking, survive? What am I going to share? Right? Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to share here? And so when it was my turn, I stood up and I said, and these were my words. I said, I don't answer questions my employees ask. And then there was an uproar in the room, like, "What the hell are you talking about, Atiba?" And people were like, hold on. And this is my turn to share. And people are cutting me off. And like, I spend all day answering questions. I answer questions till 1 o'clock every afternoon. What the hell you mean you don't answer questions? I said, well, the reality is if I've done my job, which is to cast vision in whatever it is we're doing, they're not going to have any questions because Steve, let me make this plain. If I have this pen and I need to move this pen from point A to point B, I must cast vision in order for that to happen and to happen effectively. And if I take the time as the leader to cast that vision well, they're not going to have any questions because they'll be able to figure out any question they have inside of the vision that I've cast. And so
Mhm.
that's what I shared when I stood up. And again, I'm looking around the room at people that I look up to in business and admire, and they're scratching their heads like, is he for real? Does this actually work? And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how the hell have y'all not figured this out?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had been teaching delegation before to young entrepreneurs, and it was like, that makes sense. Y'all don't know, y'all new. It makes sense to teach you. But here are seasoned veterans who don't understand this principle. And I'm thinking, if they're not understanding it, who else isn't understanding? And that was the inspiration and the spark for the book. Now, it took me 3.5, almost 4 months to get the book done. So, yes, once I started, it just went blah and came right out.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, it's a great point because I think so many leaders feel like they need to be the answer person. They need to be the all-knowing. So, if people are asking them a lot of questions, it makes them feel valuable and important. And, this is the way it's supposed to be. But I would agree with you that if, people can figure it out on their own, or if they know, how you would handle it and just go forward, and then you can talk about what you learned in the process, that's a more lasting experience that sticks and develops leaders going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we talk about that as the superhero complex. And the reality for us as business owners is when we started our business, it was us.
Yeah.
We did it. We did it all, right? When things went right, it was because we did it. When things went wrong, it was because we did it. And everything in between, right? But in that time, you build up this resiliency of I can do it because you're creating something out of nothing. So you have to have that resiliency of I can do it. And you got to fight through. And we fight through and we make it. And then we hire people. And then we put them in place, Steve, and we tell them, go do something. Right.
Mhm.
And then they have the nerve, if they're, to go do it. And then we sit back and we say, but what am I going to do now? But it's no longer what and you see the thing that we miss, and this is what you were saying, is we have such a dopamine hit that we get when we solve the problem
Yeah.
as a business owner, right? And we don't recognize that. And when you hire staff in, they take some of that dopamine away from you, and then you want it back. And this is where I believe, this is my own theory, when we hear about the entrepreneurial ADD or ADHD, I don't really think it's that. I think it's just that we need a dopamine hit. And so we go out and create something, break something so that we can feel like the superhero again.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting point. Yeah, it's such a, it almost, you should get your dopamine hit by the fact that you just watched somebody figure it out on their own and come with a great conclusion and outcome, and you're like, wow, that should be the dopamine hit, not that it came out of my mouth.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not because dopamine is so often tied to something that I did,
Yeah, 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 that's a good point.
right?
Well, and in the book, you also talk about, with delegation and bringing leaders forward and things like that, is that the goal is to turn chaos into clarity. And what you're talking
Hmm.
about is that vision, that clarity. Everybody needs to really understand what it is that the vision is, and if they're not clear, then they don't maybe know how to go about and do what you need
Yeah.
them to do.
Yes, absolutely. Because ultimately, and we talk about this in the book a lot, and is that our goal as leaders is to stop telling people what to do.
Yeah,
We must stop telling and we must start helping them learn how to think. But the challenge is if I tell you and I teach you how to think, I help you learn how to think. If you're thinking about the wrong things,
Yeah.
right? And that's where the clarity comes in. But we, as leaders, don't often slow ourselves down enough to communicate clearly, to communicate fully. And I'm not pointing the finger at any one person because I can point it as simply and easily as me. Okay, like I give you I give you a perfect example. I sent a message to someone on the staff this week, and I said, we got an email. Is this invoice? I need you to pay this invoice. And now because it's an individual we're paying them through Wise, which is how we pay all of our staff. And this person who also handles our payroll gets it done and then writes back, I didn't realize we hired someone new. I said, no, we didn't hire anyone new, right? Like, and I made an assumption
Yeah.
that they would have went back through the email thread and read the whole email thread to see that this is a contractor of a contractor that we hired that we're paying third party. And no, we didn't hire anyone. But you see, I didn't communicate well.
Yeah.
I assumed. And that's what we do so often. That's what we
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah. We know where that gets us. So,
Hmm.
another thing that you talk about, which really related to me, I've often started some of my leadership talks with, what is leadership, or what is a successful business, and I say relationships, 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 and you talk a lot about that in the book, that you've got to build these relationships, and as a leader, that's probably one of the most important things that you need to do, because then it paves the way for those thinking things to happen as opposed to just doing tasks.
Yes, absolutely. And one really important point there is just because you built a relationship doesn't mean that there isn't accountability.
Right.
And I know earlier in my career, I thought you couldn't have accountability with your friend. And so therefore, those that work for me can't be my friends. And therefore, I can't really build relationship with you because if I'm building a relationship, what are we getting towards? Well, we're getting towards friendship. And so therefore, I can't hold you accountable. And so therefore, you can't work for me. But the two are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And that's often hard for us to grasp as leaders, but it's a really important concept. And it's a really important concept because in the past, you might have been able to get away with it. But where life is in 2026 and beyond, as AI becomes more of a pervasive part of our ubiquitous experience, as robots enter the situation, and if you don't think they're coming, they're already here.
Yeah.
Okay. As robots start to take over certain aspects of our lives, we as humans are going to go back to the most fundamental needs that we have, which is community. We're going to want to belong. We're going to look for where we belong, who makes us feel included, who makes us feel a part of the community. And we're going to gravitate to those areas and those people and those places and away from the people and the areas and the places that make us feel disconnected from community. And so if you aren't willing to build relationship, you can't build community. And if they're searching for community and you're not providing it, they won't be with you for long.
Yeah, for sure. Getting back to your statement that you said just a minute ago, I want to be clear on this. So, when you talk about relationships and friends, um, I would say that some of the best friendships are the friendships where you have a deep relationship, but they can call you out on your shit. They can say, you know what, that doesn't sound like you, or why are you doing that? And they're not afraid to do that. So, perhaps friends can be an accountable relationship as well, because I think those are the deepest connections.
Without question.
Yeah. Yeah.
without question.
So tell us a little bit about, you've worked with for-profit companies, you've started
Hmm.
nonprofit companies, you talked about coaching youth football teams that won national
Hmm.
championships. What vastly different organizations, yet what's the common thread there? What is it that resonates with you and you resonate with the people in those organizations that bring success?
So leadership is about service. And so many of us don't realize that, but leadership is about service. I don't, have you read John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership?
Yes, I have. Yes.
I read it for the first time in 2000 and
Mhm.
changed the way I looked at things. Now, over the years, it continued to evolve the way I look at things because what I understood in 2000, I understood very different in 2015.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
4 years versus 20 years in.
You're at a different place. You've had more
Yes.
experience, so some of those things resonate in a different way. Yeah.
They resonate in a very, very different way. Right. But there are a couple of things that he talks about in there. And he talks about the law of the lid,
Hmm.
that your organization can only grow to the lid of its leader. And so if you want your organization to grow, you have to grow your lid, raise your lid. Now, why are we raising our lid? Why are we getting better? Why are we expanding who we are? We're not doing that so our chest could be bigger. We're doing that so we can serve the people in our organizations better.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. That's the key. The key here is we have to be more selfless and give more of ourselves as leaders in order for our organizations to continually grow.
Yeah. Great mindset. Great way to look at it for sure. Speaking
Thank you.
about the football teams, were you a football player yourself? Is that how you got
Yeah,
interested in coaching? Yeah. What tell
yeah,
us your
yeah.
story a little bit on that. Were you um how high level did you take that?
Well, my freshman year of high school, my high school football coach, Dale Miller, said to me, and this was before I ever played a down. Um, he said, "Son, you are my ticket to getting someone into the NFL." Um, he saw the talent. He knew what he had. Um, I stopped playing football in my junior year of high school. He hasn't talked to me since. True
Really?
story.
Okay.
True story. Okay. Um, now, growing up in that time, there was a lot of emphasis on football for me and the possibility of how far I could take football, and how far I wanted to. And I thought that that's what I was going to do until I got hurt my junior year. And I was walking through the halls of the school, and someone who I won't name, I know who he is, yelled out, "What are you going to do now, superstar, that you can't play football?" Now, it was a dislocated shoulder, so I wasn't done by any stretch of the imagination. But it planted a seed in my mind like, holy crap, what if I couldn't play football? What would I do?
Mhm.
Where would I be? Where would I go? And so that changed my focus. And so my junior year ended up being my last year playing football. Just walked. It helped that my head coach also stopped coaching my senior year and brought in a new head coach. And I just walked away. I just took the opportunity to flat walk away. Um, but in
And
that
what?
process, I
Okay.
also knew and felt that my coaches were father figures to me. I learned a ton from them, experienced a ton with them. They were there for me in ways like I had one coach. I lived an hour away from where I went to school. I had one coach who used to drive me home every day.
Mhm.
Okay. So there was a bond and there was learning that happened. And when I left the field, one of the things that I said is, I can't wait until I have the opportunity to be this for someone else.
Yeah. Okay. So it was more of you were drawn to the service part of what you could provide, not that football was your identity, not that you were only about being a great football player, but you wanted to help others reach their dreams.
Yeah. And, obviously it coincided with, I shouldn't say obviously, but it coincided with my son playing,
Mhm.
right? So I started coaching when he started playing. And then that it kind of grew from there. And the reality is I wouldn't be the business owner, the leader that I am today without football. Because I learned so many lessons on the football field that I then had to realize, crap, this applies in other places.
Wow. Yeah, it sure does. No,
Right?
the sports analogies are very strong and sometimes overused, but yet you do learn a lot as being a team
Yeah.
member and being on that. So that's for sure. One of the things I love about doing these interviews is you just learn things from people that you didn't know. I had no idea of hearing that story before that you just told it. And it really resonates with me because I have a similar story. I was a
Oh, wow.
really good high school football player. My dad was a coach, and I got hurt my junior year, just like you did. I missed the entire. I got hurt in the first play of the second game, so I missed the whole season, and then I missed most of my basketball season too. And it came to be that I was probably a better football player than I was a basketball player, but I
Yeah.
loved basketball more. So my senior year, I chose not to turn out for football. Took tons of heat from the coaches and other people that thought I was letting them down. But it was just something that, if I'm going to give my passion to something, I got to love it. And, I don't know how you felt, but, Friday night lights were great, but practices were like, yeah, it just wasn't my bag as much. But basketball I loved. So anyway, I made that decision. And it's interesting to hear someone else make a similar decision. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I loved every aspect of football. Um, it's funny because I still run into people that I played with, and they would say, "We hated practice with you because you practiced like it was the game. You were full
Yeah.
speed, full bore." All the freaking time. There was never a break. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's the only way I know how to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
I, I lived for it back
yeah,
then. It was,
that's
yeah.
awesome. And I want to make clear that I'm not comparing myself to you. I was not an NFL prospect. I was just a pretty good high school player.
Well, okay, so let's also be clear that that was one man's opinion,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not going to college and doing anything doesn't make me an NFL prospect either. From that perspective, it was what was in my mind of what was a possibility. The reality is, as a freshman in high school, I was 5'9". I ran a 4.40 and I benched 300 pounds.
That's impressive.
I
Yeah.
was a specimen.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. So let's get back into the delegation thing now. Okay, so
Yeah.
what three questions should a leader ask before delegating something to someone?
So you really should ask yourself, why haven't you done it already?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the big one. Like, what's the problem? Okay.
Yeah.
Because very often you got to look at yourself in the mirror and realize, is there an issue here with control? Do I have
Yeah.
a control issue? And a lot of us do. Hell, I have control issues. There are certain things that I don't even want to delegate, to the point I haven't even hired for them.
Yeah.
Control issues. But we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, right? Then who do you want to delegate this to? Who has the capacity, the bandwidth, the ability to actually take this? And then lastly, in this would be how, which is what we cover in the book, and with the case method of how do we actually get this darn thing done? Because what we've learned so far, and this is one of the things too, is what we've learned so far about delegation in our life is wrong. I'm just going to tell you that bluntly. Every book you've read about delegation in your life, until you read mine, And I say that with no conceit, but pure truth is a lie. They're all lies. I don't think they meant them to be lies, but it's one of those things when you track it back. I was successful and I built a company and it was great. And now, years later, I'm going to tell you how I did it. Let me tell you the story of my delegation. Most people who are writing books on delegation are giving you a reflection of where they've been. I wrote you a practical guide of what I do daily today and what I teach people and what we go through right now. And so there's no fantasy. There's no, oh, this could work. This is what we're doing.
Hmm.
And that's why a lot of the stuff that you learn in delegation in other books fails us.
Yeah, interesting. And I think it's that too. I think a lot of leaders do have that fear of losing control. Of, if I delegate this, shouldn't I be the one that knows this and does this because I'm the boss, I'm the leader, and the fear of losing control, I think gets us in trouble a lot.
It does. And the other side of the fair of so that's one side. The other side is this is my business. And if it isn't done right, it comes back on me. And so I'm not going to give up control because I've got to make sure it's right. But that's also going to be the death of you. That is exactly what keeps you inside the cage. And there is a process, there is a path to your staff, your team actually getting to 110% of you. Right now, they're operating at less than 100% for sure, but they can get to 110% of you. But you got to let go.
Yeah. I love in the book too, you talk about storytelling and I identify as a storyteller myself. I always think stories lay out the facts better than just saying the facts. And you use a lot of real life case studies or stories in the book that basically say, this is what we were up against, this is what happened, and this is what we learned from it. So I think that's a great part of the book. So you
Thank
do
you.
like telling a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, Steve. What is the one activity that ubiquitously for humans across the globe will get us to stop looking at our phones for at least an hour? One
Yeah.
activity. You know what it is?
Someone telling a good story, what?
You're on the right path.
Yeah.
Okay. Watching a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to the movie theater, the phones go away, an hour can go by, and I'm clear. I'm not saying that you're going to watch the entire movie and not look at your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But an hour can go by and you don't look at your phone. Why? Because story grips our attention and doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
And so when we bring story into the workplace, we grip the attention. But then here's the other beautiful thing about story story is sticky and it attaches to things. And so now, when that story starts to attach to things, now your staff remember in a different way because they're remembering based on the story and the attachments that were made.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And it's, through the, annals of time. I mean, a good storyteller captures
Mhm.
people's imaginations. It helps them sort through things that maybe they're struggling with, whether it's around the campfire or around the board table. You
Yep.
know, good stories definitely help people see, and I believe that to carry out the vision and the outcome, you have to understand what the story is, and if you don't understand it, then you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You
true.
gotta have great stories.
So you also talk in the book, why do some projects or things in our companies stall? What gets in the way to where we think we're doing well and we don't?
Things that get in the way when you think you're doing well and you're not often come back to number one, division. and not having everybody on the same page where people know what it means to win.
Yeah.
When people don't know what it means to win, then let's put it this way. We're both football guys. It's the fourth quarter. It's fourth down. You're on the 30-yard line. You're down by 6 points. You call a running play. Oh, by the way, there's 10 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
You call a running play. What's the chances that that running play is going to get you a touchdown? Probably not very high,
Yeah.
right? But the offensive coordinator comes down and says, but we got a first down. But we lost the game.
Yeah.
And in the offensive coordinator's mind, and I hope no offensive coordinator will actually do this, right? They're feeling like, but I won. I scored. I got a first down. The point of the play was to get a first down, and we did it. And the head coach says, but we needed 6 points. And we didn't get it. We lost.
Yeah.
And so often, our teams don't know what it means to win, what it means to score. And very often, when we trace back what's really going on when we're having failure, it starts right there.
Yeah.
It starts right there. We're misaligned on what we're doing,
Excellent
right?
point. I heard a great story not too long ago. So I'm just outside of Seattle, been a Seahawks fan my whole life. So Joe Buck, the announcer,
Mm-hmm.
told the story
Yep.
that his wife was a Denver Broncos fan. And before the Super Bowl, where the Seahawks played Denver, Denver was actually favored to win that game. They had Peyton Manning, and they were supposedly the better team. And Joe Buck said that he went into a meeting like on a Friday before the Super Bowl and talked to the Legion of Boom defensive group there for the Seahawks. And he came out and he called his wife and he said, "Your Broncos are in trouble." He goes, "I've never seen a more focused, more outcome oriented, more everyone knew what their job was going to do and what to do. I've never seen anything like it." And as the story goes, I think the Seahawks won that game 49-3 or some ridiculous score.
Yeah.
And it was just a, kind of to your point, is everyone on that defensive team knew exactly what they needed to do, knew exactly what the vision was and what their part in that was. And again, a great analogy to sometimes if we really know what we're after and we're really focused on it, things will go better.
Yes, absolutely. And I guarantee you, when you look at the breakdown of anything in your team, it's there. You
Yeah.
had assumptions, you had misaligned priorities, people weren't on the same page. And guess whose fault that is?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For sure. You talk about too in the book a number that surprised me, but it makes sense. That CEOs spend 61% of their time on
Mm-hmm.
tasks that someone else could do. If you think about
Mm-hmm.
that, that's a lot of time you could be doing other things like building relationships and building vision and things like that.
Yeah. Um, there's a gentleman whose name I'm not going to mention. One, because I learned an invaluable lesson from him. Two, after learning an invaluable lesson, I learned that he wasn't that great of a human being. But it doesn't mean I couldn't learn from him. So I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah.
Okay. But I watched a keynote of his several years ago, and he is $100 million guy. Okay. His company is worth $100 million, blah, blah, blah. And he carries himself like he is.
Yeah.
Okay. All the flash and all the pizzazz that you would expect of $100 million guy. Um, he's on stage. He's tall. He's very fit, very very fit, like muscular, like bodybuilder type guy. And not Alex Hormozy, by the way. No, I said that, and people probably would think it's Alex. Funny enough, Alex spoke at the same event, but it wasn't Alex. Okay. Um, And this was before Alex Hormozy was actually Alex Hormozy. And anyway, so this guy is speaking, and he says, I am worth $100 million and I only work 2 days a week. Most of you in this room aren't worth anywhere near what I'm worth, and you're working 8 days a week and you're killing yourself. And that's where I was at the time, right?
Mm.
And he's like, and I only work 2 days a week. Wouldn't you like to know how? And what he said to me next, and I say me because to me, I was the only person in the room when he was doing that keynote. It was just me and him.
Yeah.
Okay. What he said to me next felt like he took his fist and punched me smack in my nose and broke my nose. Okay. And this is what he said. And this transformed so much for me over the next few years. And then about 5 years later, I actually met him and realized, oh, you're a jerk. Um,
Yeah.
but what he said was every 120 days, I replace myself in my business. Steve, he said every 120 days, he looks at everything he does and delegates it out
Mm.
and replaces himself.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, overwhelmed and overworked at the time, how the hell do I get there?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh.
Okay. And that started a quest of really starting to understand that and realizing all the things that I was doing that I should not be doing,
Yeah.
all the tasks that were on my plate, all the things that people were coming to me to do that I had no business in doing.
It's so true, and people say it in different ways. I've said this multiple times and recently because it just resonated with me so well. A previous guest on this show said it a different way, but the same thing. And what she said is that, the dirty little secret is that good CEOs are really busy, but great CEOs aren't that busy because of what you said. They delegate, they they let people lead from their level, they help them learn and grow so that they can, have leadership and take the company forward. And of course they're there and of course they have impact, but they're not working 100-hour weeks. The great
Right.
CEOs aren't that busy.
They're not. They're just not.
Yeah.
And in the time that they're working, the majority of it is spent
Thinking.
thinking.
Yes. Well, I think you say in the book a lot too. You talk a lot about we need to teach people not how to do, but how to think. One of the things that we find is that, you talk about lies that we tell ourselves, and one of them is, well, I can just do it myself faster, so I'll just do it myself. But looking at how we do things and how we move forward is I also believe in self fulfilling prophecy. That if you think a certain way and you just do that, then you're gonna end up doing it. So if you think you can do it faster, then you're always gonna end up doing it. Where, as you said earlier in the program, if we can teach somebody how to do it, and that may take a little bit more time in the long run, it saves us time on the back end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that lie is very pervasive. And it's here's the real cost. Okay. It takes 45 minutes, they say, to switch from one activity to another. And so, yes, the activity, the thing might only be a 10-minute thing for you to do, but it stops you from doing the other thing that you were doing. And now you're switching. And if it takes you 45 minutes to truly get back in the flow, so now that 10-minute activity really costs you 55 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so was it actually faster to do it yourself? Okay. It's a massive, massive lie that we tell ourselves. And one that it's easy to live with. It's easy to justify. The other big one that's easy to justify is They can't do it as well as me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for
guess
sure.
what? Guess what? As long as you keep saying that, they won't.
Right. Right. And then the other one, the other lie too, is I just don't have time to do it. I don't have time. Well, I don't have time to train anyone. So what you're saying is
Yes.
you need to train somebody to be able to learn how to take that delegated thing and make it work. And you can't, again, assume. You can't just assume they know how to do it. You have to train them and help them get there.
And here's why. Okay. If you do a task, you do a project, let's say 100%, truthfully, you probably landed at 95%, right?
Yeah.
That's usually where we would land. When none of us are perfect. And then we think about it and we say, well, if I delegate this to somebody else, they're going to not do 95%. They're going to do 70, 75, maybe 80 if I'm lucky. And if they do 80%, I'm going to go to bed every night really frustrated because I'm going to be worried about that extra 20%, which I was never kidding anyway, but I'm going to be worried about that extra 20%,
Hmm.
right? That's our thinking that keeps us stuck. But here's the other side. When we effectively teach someone how to think, when we effectively do that, and we go through in the book and teach you how to do that, but when we effectively teach someone else how to think, and they understand how to think, and now we've invested that time and they're able to do the project at that 95% like we could because we've invested the time to teach them how to think, then it also gives them the opportunity to add in their own unique flavor of their own talents, which take that 95% up to 110%. Now, all of a sudden, you're operating at 110% of yourself and you're not doing any of it.
Because they've brought up things that you may not have thought of. Take it to another
Or
level.
they may just be better at certain aspects that you weren't.
Yeah. It's talking about how to think. I love the story in the book when you hired Christine. Um,
Mm,
and and just a preface to that, I hired an administrative assistant, and I told her that I wanted her to uh, anticipate what I would do in situations when I wasn't there, and then just do them. And then
yeah.
if it came to be that that wasn't exactly the way I would do it, then we would talk about it. It's not punitive. We just learn from it. And then over time, you're going to know, what I would do, and you can get a lot done without having to ask me or wait for my response or whatever. And she came back the next day and told me that she almost quit that night because that was so far out of her comfort zone. But she stuck with it, and then it worked. And so tell your story about Christine because you kind of did a similar deal, right?
Yeah. Christine is not my finest moment in terms of how it all happened. And so I've been in search for a long time. I've forgotten more about SEO than most people know about SEO at this point. And all SEO work in the company was coming through me. It all had to ride past me, which also meant I was a major bottleneck. And looking at where we were going, I realized I couldn't keep being the bottleneck and I needed to bring somebody else in. Now, the other people I brought in the past didn't really work out because we had a very unique way that we saw things and we did things because of my background and what I understood. And so a lot of the tricks and tactics that people were using, we didn't do because they were just tricks and tactics. They weren't fundamental. So it was always hard to hire. And then I met Christine. And I met Christine and interviewed Christine, and Christine was a young lady, and she was young and one of those, oh my gosh, you are dripping with potential. You just need a guide to get you there. Okay, I'm going to be your guide to get you there. I'm going to teach you SEO. And 6 of the first 8 weeks that Christine worked for me, we had a weekly meeting on Tuesdays, Tuesday mornings. Christine cried in that meeting. Now, that's not a good place to be. That's not good leadership by any stretch of imagination, right? And I felt horrible about it, absolutely horrible. And so this one Tuesday morning, I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, Atiba, we cannot make Christine cry this week. But on the flip side, I'm also saying to myself, but Atiba, we've read all the books on Amazon on delegation and we've tried all the different methods here. Like nothing is working. But Atiba, she's not a dummy. She can do this. This is not her fault. But I've done everything I could. What the hell am I supposed to do? I've done everything I know. I don't know, but dude, figure it out. That's the conversation going on
Yeah.
in my head
Yeah.
that Tuesday morning. And Christine shows up to the meeting, and I've not figured it out, Steve. I don't
Okay.
know what to do. But that was also the moment that the case method, which is a central point of the book and the central thing that we teach in the book, was born. I can only label it as divine intervention because I don't know where it came from. But it was four questions that I asked Christine that changed everything. I wasn't even aware of the questions until after the fact. And the power of the questions until after the fact. And then we repeated it and we repeated it and we repeated it and we repeated it. And I'll tell you this, it's been years since I've done SEO in my own company for the company or for clients. Christine was able to take and learn to think the way I do about SEO, create our systems, and then go out and train an army of people to do it as well. And
So,
I'm grateful
yeah.
because it's years later. Christine has moved on to bigger and better things, but that legacy lives on.
So we haven't talked about the case method yet, and I want to ask that next, but are the four questions related to what CASE stands for?
Yes, case is an
Okay.
acronym.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us what the acronym means, and then what were those questions you asked Christine that developed this method?
So, first one, what challenges did you have in this project? C, challenges. A, articulate. Okay, now I want you to articulate the steps that you took. Start at the beginning, and then what? And then what? And then what? What are all articulate every single step? S, we're going to choose four of the steps. Two you did right, two you did wrong, and we're going to study and dive deep. We're going to look at what were your assumptions coming in? What actually happened? How did you feel about that? What did you do? Why did you make this choice? What was your thought on that choice? We're going to study and dive deep. And then E, what was easier than expected? What was easier than expected? And that's an unsung question because it's the question that uncovers their hidden talents that allows the process to go past what you were capable of when they take it over. So that's the case. Okay. And it's structured to be repeated. And so you do it iteratively. And that's how people learn and that's how people grow and how you help them learn to think, not just tell them what to do.
That's a great point. A really great point. You also talk a little bit that I thought was good. Where you talked about the judger versus the learner mindset.
Yeah.
So explain
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Summary class.
Um, the questions that we ask determine what happens in any situation. Okay. Honey, why'd you do that? Honey, why'd you do that?
Hmm.
Same question. One was asked with judgment.
Yeah.
One was asked with a learner mentality, curiosity. As humans, as bosses, as owners, as leaders, especially when things aren't going correct, it's so easy to ask a judger question.
Yeah.
But when you ask a judge a question, the thing that happens, and the only thing that can happen, is the other person gets on the defensive and they feel now like they have to defend themselves. And if you feel like you have to defend yourself, then it becomes a contentious situation. And that's
So
just not productive.
no one likes to be judged, that's for sure. So seeking the question or asking the question to seek information and curiosity and what am I missing type of question versus, you know, what was that all about, you dummy? Type of thing,
And
right?
which is honestly sometimes the question that you feel that you want to ask. And so, we talked too about the fact that you got to pause,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to pause and consider the question that you're asking. Is this question a learner question or a judger question? If it's a judger question, pause. How can I ask this in a learning environment? So tell me, what was it that you were, as you were going through this, that you were thinking about? Like, what was going through your mind? What the hell were you thinking?
Same question, different approach. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
And so it's vitally important that we learn to ask great questions and understand how our questions are received by the listener.
Yeah, you make a really good point because leadership 101 is, ask questions. Questions are very powerful, but you state in the book, ask better questions. So questions are important, but as you just described, how you ask them and the tone of your voice and the delivery that you ask the question is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have so many tools that can help us today. And when you buy the book, we give you some of those tools, but even just going to any of your generative AI engines and asking, hey, I want to ask this question. Is it a learner or a judge question? I'm not sure. It'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, in the book, there's a lot of each chapter, and throughout the book, there's action items and there's pro tips,
Hmm.
which are
Hmm.
very well placed and
Thank you.
yeah, really help you understand your point. So, Tiba, we've covered a lot here, but in anticipation of our discussion today, what haven't I asked you that you want to be sure to get in the program?
Well, I think we covered the two really big things, which I appreciate, which is we have to get better at setting vision and we have to get better at asking questions.
Yeah, yeah,
As leaders, if we can't do those two things, we're going to struggle. There's a third thing that we have to do as a leader, which, by the way, is going to be my next book.
okay,
These three things, which is we have to be open.
yeah,
We have to be open. Gone are the days of I am the leader. I don't make any mistakes. My poop don't stink. I am perfect. No, you got to share your flaws and your warts. You got to be real with your people. You got to let the guard down. And I'm not saying you got to tell them everything, but you got to let them know. Like I have this conversation, and it's not with everyone in all areas. So I have a number two, and I'll have the conversation with her and say, "Hey, listen, I want you to understand what you're seeing right now. What you're seeing is one of my weaknesses. Let me tell you how and why, and what's actually going on. Okay,
yeah,
and
yeah.
this is where I'm actually struggling right now.
That's
Right?
being vulnerable and showing that you're not perfect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right. So, a leader, you got to set great vision. You must be open and you must ask great questions. Those are the three things.
So tell us as we finish up here, just tell us kind of what your day to day looks like now. Now you've been a serial entrepreneur as we've talked about. You've been a coach, so you're in Manila now. So what's your day to day look like now? What is your business now?
Yeah, so I run a medical marketing agency. That's our quote unquote bread and butter. We work with cash-based medical practices in the orthobiologics, stem cells, and
Yeah.
longevity medicine arena, and helping them figure out how to build drive leads into their practices. So that's what we do. That's where we have the team for. This book is part of my legacy, okay, of recognizing that I've learned a lot about leadership, and I have I won't even call it obligation or a duty. I have a responsibility to share it. And so that's what I do. My day to day depends on the day. Mondays are my quiet day. There are no meetings. I have one meeting on Mondays. That's it. Okay. And it's a client meeting, a standing client meeting. It's the only day that they were available. But Monday's my quiet day. Tuesday is my big meeting day. I do staff meetings, um, podcasts,
Yeah.
and other things on Tuesdays. Wednesday is a bit more of a work day for me. So I may have a meeting sporadically throughout the day, but I spend most of the day working. And then Thursday and Friday really kind of wrap up the week in terms of, okay, what do we need? What do you need from me? And what are we planning for next week? Fridays usually by about 11 a.m. on Friday, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Atiba, at this point in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question, and that question is, in relation to leadership, what is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
In relation to leadership, a pearl of wisdom that I'm going to leave you with today is understand that leadership is about service. And if you're not willing to serve, get out of leadership. And if you want to grow and you want your organization to grow, figure out how to serve your people more.
Well said. Well said. Well, Atiba, this has been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
You're a great guest. I can't believe we're out of time. I feel like we need to keep going on, and maybe on your next book we'll pick it up again. But I appreciate your
Let's
time
do
today.
it.
And
Thank
again,
you.
for those that are listening, the book is called The Delegation Trap. It's not them, it's you. You're obviously the author, and I would assume you can get it at Amazon or any other place you can get books.
Yes, and the delegationtrap.com.
Yeah. Okay, great. And it's well done. It's like I said at the beginning, I like it, and you said it in our discussion too. It's practical. It's not philosophical,
Yeah.
Zen woo-woo. It's just, these are things that make sense and work, and sometimes it's nice to have a very practical book like that. So it's a great job on the book. So
Thank you.
anyway,
Appreciate that.
I appreciate your time today. Good luck with the future. It sounds like you're doing a lot of fun things, and maybe we can meet down the road one of these days.
Absolutely, my friend.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orange, the word, .coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.